All right. So, yeah, factual information, if y'all haven't noticed, nah, I'm just kidding. Everyone's noticed. It's impossible to not notice. Has basically disappeared since 2000 and I'd say 15. And I'm going to start with a story before we get into the subject of what I wanted to delve into. It's an AOC quote, but this is a little backstory. So when I was a kid, around 2015, I was 16 years old, and I was on a lot of these meme things like iFunny, Reddit, all this stuff, right? And, this is when memes were becoming a very, very big deal. And, at first out in 2015, 2014, even 2013, they were just, harmless little images you'd share with your friends. And it would spread around really quick and people would like it, and it was just something stupid you did. It was like, oh, it's it basically in middle school, before memes were a thing, we'd print stuff out on the printers and we'd tape it all around the school, and it would be like stupid pictures. It would be like, one time I carried around a picture of a fish with me all day, and I was like, look at my fish, look at my goldfish. So that was memes before memes, right? Then we got, cell phones and, you know, Instagram, iFunny, Reddit, Facebook, all this stuff where we shared these memes. And around 2015, there were these things called meme wars, right? And at first, it seemed like really harmless. And I was like a super huge nerd in high school. So if you couldn't tell already, right? So what I fought in three meme wars. So basically, it was these communities on iFunny that would they would fight against each other, right, with memes, and it would be whoever had the best memes won, and whoever got accounts banned, or like whoever mass reported accounts ended up winning the war because the content was gone, and by that point the person would be so drained that they'd be like, all right, forget it, I don't want to do iPhone anymore, I lost my account, like fuck it, right? I mean, who, right, like who wouldn't have that reaction? So it wasn't until like I got to college I realized that children were being taken advantage of uh, to pursue political objectives through this. A lot of these memes ended up being intensely politicized, right? Like, oh, I just messed around with my screen real quick. Like political memes. So basically, I was involved in the political end of iFunny, and it seeped out, like these meme wars seeped out into other communities. But in our community, it was like we were geared towards, sending memes and being a part of the meme war in some context. And what it ended up training these kids to do was to believe their side wholeheartedly and push, political facts, in quotes, on these memes and say, this is right, this resonates with me, we have to get rid of this enemy. So in a way, it was almost training, kids in cyber warfare, and figuring out how to use the social media as a weapon to suppress ideas that you didn't like, and to see and to embed that into the culture of the internet, so that way, you know kids would be able to, when they grew up, would be able to apply this to things in the real world, at college campuses, at speech forums, or with counter protests or protests, or um, you know, social issues in college senates, and decision making panels, all these things, and even at the job site. So a lot of the things, what made me come to this conclusion that I and many other children in the United States were being used by some entity, which I guess I'll say is the ruling class, but I'm not definitively sure. It's just most likely, because it's always the wealthy that are the bad guys most of the time. Um, we're using kids to push and train to set the stage for a next narrative. So when I was in college, I saw cancel culture in full effect, and the harm of not falling in line with what you were being told was the right thing to do. And I was in more of like the those activist classes, like Africana Latinx studies, and um, I was in, yeah, and I would take like some more economic leaning classes, but still had like the social justice bent to them. And then I would take my regular, major, which would be mass communications. And the woke stuff was really in the ALS classes, right? And I saw there that the harm of not falling in line. So if you had an opposing opinion or you were passionate about an opposing opinion, especially like me, um, you were like public enemy number one. If you were politically active, you were public enemy number one. So it was kind of this weird like understanding, like okay, like where did all this come from though? Like I'm not trying to suppress anyone. Why am I getting treated hostilely? Hostility. I don't know. Whatever. Point being, in college, I was starting to question like, why is this occurring? Why am I being made to look like an enemy here, when I'm just saying I don't agree with what you say? So I realized that, I came to the conclusion that when we were kids, we were being trained to, act and think a certain way. And I'm not saying that, the meme war was this big thing. It's the whole concept of shifting and creating consciousness and dividing, right? Um, has been embedded in social media for a while. I talked about this a while ago with my friend Derek on here, where we talked about how the algorithms are set to divide people. And it works the same with iFunny and Instagram today and Facebook today. So basically, if you have an interest, your interests are kept within your algorithm to show you things that you like, because, that'll keep you on the website longer. But what that unintentionally did was that created a culture shock whenever you went into contact with a person that didn't think similarly to you, therefore creating conflict because you were so shocked by the other person's way of thinking, because you've been sheltered online and in your own town. So the internet is no longer interconnected, but now closed circuited. So you're kind of closed within your own little bubble, right? Unless you purposely seek it out, and that requires, a mental commitment to always break out of that bubble, because it's very easy to fall into. So anyway, I realized that, kids were being indoctrinated with this, even with Instagram and with Vine and Coob and all these other like video apps. Because Vine went down for a little bit, and then there was this thing called Coob that lasted for like 6 months, and then it died away. There was like Vine communities, like, oh, what type of Vine are you on? Are you on like Fight Vine? Or are you on Fashion Vine or whatever? And it was basically like the algorithm like tailoring your interest to you, so they would call it different types of Vine, right? Or iFunny, right? Like I was into politics as a kid, so naturally I was in iFunny politics. Um, but then there would be another community that we would always beef with, which was, My Little Pony iFunny, and then there were furry iFunny, and basically like all these weird like communities, these niche communities would kind of like attack each other. So like it was almost like these algorithms were like divide and conquer, and it was like, okay, well the kids are using it, the adults don't really know what this stuff is and they don't care, so let's play around with the kids and see what we could do with them. And that's why I think a lot of the kids today, whether you were hanging out on Facebook or, you were just a normal kid and you popped on Instagram or Vine and you only saw things that like appeal to you, but you didn't even realize it. Like we were being bred, and not bred, Jesus Christ. We were being raised to think in terms of small, close-knit community and only me all the time, and what works for me, and what I like. And when we saw what other people did and we didn't like it, it was almost hostile, or we just didn't follow it, or we were like, yo, you guys are weird. Those are like the typical reactions to a culture shock. Like if you go to another state and you're just like, yo, like if you go to New Jersey, right? And you're just like, yo, it smells like ass here. Like, it really smells like ass. Like, if you go through Hoboken, man, like, it smells like peanut butter and garbage. It's disgusting. Like, why would you live there? But that's like a cultural shock to me, because I'm just like, oh my God, it smells different. It's either, appalling or not. Anyway, what does this have to do with anything AOC said, right? This has to do with the thing that there's not a focus on facts anymore, to the point where our politicians are even, against factual, understanding of the material world around them, and are instead pushing a narrative to try and divide people. And it's not a surprise that this is especially coming from AOC, because she's also in, my generation. But it's more surprising, too, to see it from the older generation. And this is kind of why I think it comes from the ruling class, because there's a shift in it, right? There's a shift in the ruling class where there's, the people that want to create this new type of society where they operate off of feeling and they operate off of, political expediency. And then there's the other side of it where it's like, facts still matter, material reality still matters. And we don't need all this social change, whether it be, benefiting us or not. We need to conserve things. So we're going to call them the conservatives, not in the sense of Republican, but in the sense of wanting to keep order and the way things are. So this little clip of an interview I'm about to show you is between Anderson Cooper, who was a member of the Vanderbilt family, which is one of the families that built this country in the 1900s, and disgustingly wealthy people, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So she's, of course, AOC, as you all know her, the woke person. And basically in this, AOC is saying that we focus so much on facts that it's almost useless. So I'm just going to play this for you, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on it.
There, I would argue that they're missing the forest for the trees. I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
But being factually correct is important.
It's absolutely important. And whenever I make a mistake, I say, okay, this was clumsy. And then I restate what my point was. But it's not the same thing as the president.
All right, so I have a lot of issues with that for a few reasons. First off, she completely tried to lie to us to the face. She said, oh yeah, that was clumsy, but then I'll restate what I was trying to say. And it's like, no, restating is like repetition. You're just repeating what you said, maybe tweaking it a little bit, but it's still the same thing. Like, you're not fooling anyone. She's never admitted guilt for anything or saying that something was clumsy. Maybe once or twice. I'm not going to say this was definitive, but I've never heard, like, this is going off of my thing. This is not like a fact that I have, right? But off of what I've read from her, I have not been alerted to her saying I made a mistake on Twitter. I've never heard her say that, or even at a rally. I've known her to lie for a while, because now this is a fact. In 2018 and 2019, she voted to fund the Department of Homeland Security, which also funds ICE and Customs and Border Patrol. So the thing she campaigned on, which was abolishing ICE, she ended up funding. So, of course, this is the thing, too. This is what I mean by, like, a fundamental split in the ruling class, right? Like, there's the traditional guard of it, right? Which is Anderson Cooper. Wow, I'm, like, misgendering Anderson Cooper. That's great. Cooper's part of the old wing. He's part of the conservative wing, where it's like, facts are still facts. We need to maintain some semblance of a democracy, and we need to be educated because we need to be tactical and maintain the social and economic order of our class in the United States. And then you have the newer people, which are like, the liberals that are just the progressives that were anti-capitalist, and then they're coming in and it's like, oh, we actually got money, so we're going to grift a little bit. And you got the younger end of it and the more radical right populist end of it that's saying, no, we want to change the way we're going. What we want to do is we want to create a new understanding of things. We have these moral convictions, but we're also, influenced heavily by money. So we're very liberal in the way we pursue our objectives. We don't necessarily have a complete plan, but the plan is to make money and maintain power. They're essentially like, they're not even trying to hide the disgusting greed and power that comes with their positions. Essentially, they're like, yeah, we believe in this policy, and we believe in implementing it because it's the right thing to do. It's moral, it's just, it's the American thing to do, but it's not the factual thing to do. And this could be in regards to anything. This could be in regards to a transgender sports ban. This could be in regards to, maintaining Roe v. Wade. This could be in regards to, leaving desegregation up to states' rights. The point is it's not coming from a place of fact. It's coming from a place of emotion and political, game playing. And a lot this has always been the case, but it's worse now because the average person used to at least be able to say, well, that's a bunch of shit, and critique it. And there used to be, news outlets that would, intensely research it and really rip, politicians and be like, hey, listen, like, what's good with this? And really ask in-depth questions and say, well, don't you think that, this goes against the Constitution? Or don't you think there's what's the legal basis of what you're saying, or doesn't this undermine the way our country functions? None of those questions are asked. It's more like, how do you feel? Why do you feel this way? It's more feeling based. And that's why what she said is so concerning, because it's just kind of like there's not even reporting anymore. It's all motivated based on feeling. Like, even if you're going to do a factual piece, it's based on like what you think and why. There's not even like an entertainment of an opposing idea. There's no there's no entertainment of an opposing idea. Like what AOC was saying too, she was saying like, like it's just morally wrong. Like you're just morally wrong. Like, who are you to decide what's morally wrong? Like, there's a lot of things that are morally wrong, like, tying your children up and starving them, murder, rape, theft. These are like, hallmark immoralities. But like, what are we talking about here that's immoral? It depends. Morality is a tricky thing, but it's not like an impossible thing either. And there's certain things where it's like, well, that's not immoral. That's just you don't agree with what the person said. So if someone was like, yeah, I think we need, like Marjorie Greene Taylor, right? Like, I don't agree with her saying we need a national divorce. We need to separate the country. I think that's stupid. I think that's strategically not sound. I think that opens us up to warfare on the continent. And if we were to have a national divorce, we would need new passports, IDs, tax codes. It would be a fucking mess. We'd be living like the Soviet Union did after it broke up. We'd have 6-year-old girls prostituting themselves for bread. Look it up. It's on YouTube. It's disturbing footage of these little girls telling, a reporter what they had to do for bread. It's disgusting. And that's what would happen in the United States. That is absolutely what would happen. I think it is incredibly wrong and irresponsible, but it's not immoral. It's not like this heinous act. It's not like Marjorie Greene Taylor is saying, yeah, I want 6-year-olds to suck dick for bread. She's saying like, yo, like, we need a national divorce because we're so divided, it just makes more sense for stability. That's not immoral. That's just short-sighted thinking. What's immoral is like a Klansman, intimidating a black family that just moved in by burning a cross and calling them the N-word. That's immoral. That's disgusting. That's harassment, That's taking physical action against someone to intimidate and harm them, That's like morality and immorality in play here. Like I feel like well, it's just a lot of this doesn't make any sense, especially from a politician. You would expect from a politician for there to be more of a moral not absence, but just kind of like I have a set of morals, but I also have a set of facts. You know what I mean? Like people focus too much on morality and not enough on facts. I think what AOC's saying is in regards to critiques from the right wing. A lot of the right wing will make these claims saying, okay, well, the liberals are just going off of, their feelings and not hard facts. But if you tell them that Iraq didn't have weapons of mass destruction, they'll lose their fucking minds. If you tell them Russia isn't communist, they'll lose. They won't believe you. They're like, yeah, they're still communist. I'm like, no, they're not. Yes, they are. The thing is that people that, and this is another reason why too, it's also hard to have, factual basis, is because the people that are saying, well, get the facts, are saying, get my facts because I'm right. There's too much emotion on the right and the left to where we can't actually have a real discussion and a real exchange of debate. Not that we can't, but it's made to believe it that way. Like, I had on my friend, I had James on, who's the head of the Oneonta Republican Club, and the Oneonta State College Republicans, excuse me, and we had a wonderful discussion. I'm by no means a Republican, but it was a wonderful discussion. We agreed on more than we disagreed with, and we exchanged ideas. And everyone, it seemed people liked the episode, and it was cool. But to go and do what AOC is saying, and just focus on feelings, if that was just an emotionally fueled episode, we would have just been screaming at each other with no facts and just throwing things at each other until one of us got tired, or there was no. One of us brought something up the other didn't know about, and then one of us looked like an idiot, and then it would be over. It's not an effective way to discuss something with someone. And more importantly, it's not an effective way to run and lead a country. The United States is very unique because it's a federation, and it's a true federation. The executive branch has like zero power. It all comes from the House and the Senate, and then local elections and the state government. So, we're a true federation. So to have this attitude is really concerning. And it makes sense why people like Marjorie Greene Taylor were saying, hey, we should have a national divorce. Not because I think it's the moral decision, but because to me it makes sense. And I feel it makes sense. And this is another thing too. A lot of people feel like they're not, arguing from a place of morality or irrationality or reactionary, thought process, but they are. AOC and Marjorie Greene Taylor both think they are, logical people, but they're primarily motivated by emotion, feeling, intense. You have Marjorie Greene Taylor, intense feeling of patriotism on one hand, to where it's almost blinding her to the reality of we need to fix and bring the country together instead of going for the nearest divorce lawyer. And AOC, intensely passionate about social justice and doing the right thing and being on the right side of history, that she may actually be on the complete wrong side of history and destroy the country completely. So, and then we have your average Democrat and Republican voter who, one, feels like they're going to stand up for the country and restore the country to the way it used to be, and the way that it was promised to be. And then you have the progressives who are saying we need to build a new country. We need to be on the right side of history. We need to be against fascism like our grandparents were, and we need to uphold this whitewashed view of the American justice. It's to the point where it's both sides are blinded. And by whitewashed, I don't mean it in the racial term, by the way. I mean it like you're purified, But both sides are so blinded by their motivations that they can't come to a real conclusion and talk to each other. Because at the end of the day, the Republican down the street and the progressive down the street are both your neighbor. And I hate to break it to you, even if this country decided to stop all the foreign wars and, not be imperialist, there's going to be a power vacuum. The power vacuum will be filled. And the question is, how safe will America be if that power vacuum is no longer filled by America? So it's kind of like, I'm not saying that we need to be the world's policeman and keep the imperial adventures. I think we need to come back, but we need to withdraw strategically and we need to be domestically secure with each other. Like you wouldn't have a friend over your house if, you think they're going to run off with your wallet. And right now we have that level of distrust, but we're letting that person stay in the house. And that's essentially America. We're letting our neighbor stay in our house, even though we know he's going to steal we think he's going to steal our wallet and our jewelry and our alcohol. So I really think that if we are instead to, if we don't secure the domestic situation, when we retreat within the self, we're going to bring all the external contradictions that we take out on the rest of the world at home. And it's going to be a mess, and other countries are going to take advantage of that because we have natural resources. At the end of the day, there's going to be the water wars. There's going to be, the agricultural wars, the resource wars, really. So, I think withdrawing and defending the country and then fixing our domestic situation through cooperation and discussion and compromise is really the only way forward, because if we don't do that, this country is going to collapse and we're not going to have running water anymore and we're going to get invaded. So we need to really start talking to each other again and really start figuring out, how to avoid the emotional appeals, the accusations of immorality, the removal of focus on morality, and instead the focus on fact. I'm not saying, morality is not important. I'm not saying, for the sake of the country, we need to have child labor laws reinstated. You know what I mean? Like, that's wrong. But what I'm saying is, instead of using morals to being so moralistic to the point where you view your own countrymen as the enemy, maybe look at your morals in the sense of, what I think they're doing is wrong, but is it truly immoral? Is it truly causing harm to another person? Is this person causing harm to another person because they say they speak like this, or they dress like this, or they think like this? Like, what are they doing as a person? Like, what is their character as a person? Does their character exude immorality? Are they the Klansman that's burning a cross on that family's lawn? Are they the, the progressive Democrat that's trying to get someone fired from their job because they're 60 years old and made an inappropriate joke at the family barbecue? Is it because, like stuff like that, like, is this person really that bad? What did they do outside of this? Are they kind? Did this person mow someone's lawn for them when they couldn't? Could this person possibly be a volunteer in the community? Looking for the good in the person and really, vetting a person before you make an accusation like that is the way forward. And it really just takes an enlightened mind to do that. And I'm not saying, I'm so enlightened when I say that. I'm just saying, by that I mean constantly think and think about your past actions, your present actions, and how that's going to shape your how you act in the future. I think that's the only way we're going to go forward as a country. This cancel culture stuff is not, it's not going to work long term, and it's going to sow more division, and it's going to push people to the right and push people to the left. And I'm not saying we have to meet in the center and be centrists, but I'm just saying we have to cooperate. You can think as a right-wing person and you can think as a left-wing person, but at the end of the day, is what we're doing good for the country? Can we, operate on a factual basis? There's a lot of even media is, we have right-wing media and we have left-wing media. We have social media platforms that are safe havens for the right wing, and then we have social media platforms that are safe haven for the left to the center. And now whole segments of the American population are not interacting with each other at all. So because everyone's so sick of what the media is doing and the social media companies are doing to stoke this division. And a lot of it too is, multimillionaires and billionaires buying up these companies. The Washington Post used to be really good. And I remember reading the Washington Post when I was in high school. And then I saw them get bought out by Amazon, and it went downhill. It became this partisan, woke, um, opinion opinionated publication. It became this nothingness. It was nothing. And a lot of news companies are like that now, because a lot of other companies or political interests or wealthy people with alternative motives bought these newspapers, whether they agree with the opinions in them or not, and decided to start printing them out because they saw a market for woke stuff. And they said, oh, well, you know what? This is keeping people divided, so it's going to make it easier for us to buy out their politicians and to violate their labor standards and to make it harder for them to organize at the workplace, because they're more concerned about who you voted for than the benefits package getting cut. And that's the real danger with all this, because when we're so caught up in trying to say, morality is this person is immoral, or this person said this, or that person said that, or oh, this one voted for that, or oh, he has a truck, that's bad for the environment, instead of looking at people and looking for what to categorize them at and label them as, we should be looking at them as okay, this is my fellow worker today, or oh, this person, he's the guy that walks in the park every day. I wonder how he's doing. He looks kind of lonely today. There's none of that. It's all looking at people, finding out how to judge them, and then moving forward with that. And then we have people that, we got these people that just, I don't know, man, like they feed off that, and it's just gonna end up like killing our country, because if we're not focusing on the fact of the person, and what I consider the fact of the person is, how do they act in public? How do they act in private? What do they do? Are they just, getting mad on the internet, or are they actually causing harm to people? And if they're getting mad on the internet, why are they getting mad like that? Or if they're just, in the park and they're yelling at themselves or something, I don't know. Basically, just like I don't know, try to get to know people before you make a judgment call like that. And because that the whole context of the video I played was AOC calling Trump a racist or whatever, and like I've seen posts about that, but then again, at the same time, he's had a lot of African American staffers, he's had a lot of Latino staffers. The Latinos are flocking to the far right. So I don't really know anymore, like, is he really a racist? Is he not a racist? Is Joe Biden more or less racist than him? Is any president more or less racist than the other? I mean, really, at the end of the day. So we gotta look at it like that. Like, is this more like we're so, irritated about who holds power and who doesn't hold power? Who's in our community and who's not in our community? Or are we, actually fighting for morals? I think most of the time people are just pissed off the other person doesn't think the same as them due to, media conditioning and due to social media conditioning as well. So I really feel like this is a conditioned problem, and I feel like if we didn't have, the media of, post 2015, I really think, like, if this happened in 2000, I feel like this would have been a little different. Like the last 8 years would be a little more calm, but that's just me. I hope I made my point. I'm very tired, and I'm very dehydrated. So, and I just knew I had to get, something out there, and this was kind of on my mind recently, because it's like, there's just too many emotional people, too much emotion. Just try to get try to get the facts before you make a judgment on someone, and before, you go on Facebook, or you make a podcast or a video or something, try to really just think critically and break outside of your bubble a little bit, because that's the only way to get real information. And at the end of the day, like, even with the Ukraine stuff, it's so hard to get any type of information correct, but it'll be okay in the end. And as long as you just keep questioning things and looking at what both sides have to offer. The good thing about this is that we're not at war with Russia and we're not involved militarily with Ukraine. So we can actually look at both sides and say, well, since I'm not getting bombed and I'm not fighting in this, what does Russia have to say? Why is Ukraine saying this? And why is Russia saying this? And do I believe Ukraine? These types of things. It's instead of just believing everything you see on the phone, the news, or the Twitter, or your favorite celebrity says, actually look into it. Is that what it says? Read government reports. Look at the sources on news articles. Look up the author's name. If you really want to find out about a topic, obviously, I don't do that with everything I research, but if I'm really, pissed off about something, I'll do a deep dive and I'll be like, okay, yeah, the person reporting this has no idea what they're talking about, or it'll be like this, half and half, and then through reading the actual source material, I'll get an understanding of what's going on. Okay, so now I'm done. I'm completely done. Sometimes when I do these podcasts, it reminds me of, when you're drunk and you have to pee, and then you think you're done peeing, and then a whole other stream comes out. The second stream came out. I'm good. I am pee-free, and I am ready to go to bed. Until next time, my friend. Oh, I need to make a Jackson Cannabis plug. Jackson Cannabis, really good stuff. Really cheap weed. If you want to buy some, use my code CANNA15 for 15% off your cannabis order. They sell CBD, Delta 8, and Delta 9. And hopefully next week, marijuana will be federally legal, so everyone will be able to buy Delta 9 without a problem. Yes. It'll be good. Okay, I need to make an actual promo for that to air in the beginning of the show. But yeah, until next time, my friends, have a good one.